James, we'll try to sum it up at this point, said something in that whole sentence there and the whole thing that was going on about inner happiness. And I think the whole thing that we've all learned here was that inner happiness is what we're all trying to really discover. But we all learned that happiness on a social scale is more of an addiction. You know why I started these classes? There was this, I don't like seeing troubled minds, so I feel this is a good way to reach out to the troubled mind. To me, troubled minds are really what cripples us. And when I started these classes, there was this old man that came into my store where I work. And he's about 80 years old, and he's in constant pain. His leg is bad, he's kind of crippled, but he's really spry, a spry guy. And he walks up to me for some reason. I don't know, old people like to talk to me. And he walks up to me and he goes, I've done everything. I've done everything in my life. And he's suicidal at this point, recognizing that. And he says, and it all meant nothing. And I looked at him. He says, I have success in business. I have my family. I have all of this, and now I'm here. And all of those things that brought me happiness at that time, right now, it all means nothing. So I said to him, in the short span that I had to say to him, I said, well, it meant something at the time. He says, well, I'm going to go out and ram my car into a tree. Whether he did that or not, I don't know. I haven't seen him, so he may have. I don't know that. So I decided to really start classes, and when I get people thinking. That's the whole idea. To really get some raw philosophy, not just from a book or from what you hear. To really bring the philosophy to life. I'm thinking about this man who had his whole life ahead of him, did everything, and now he's at this point, did all this stuff, and now he's feeling that it all meant nothing. I felt really bad about that, and he reached that point where most people are searching for happiness like it's an orgasm, or like it's something that you have to achieve socially. Now that is something we need to do. We need to have orgasms. We need to go different things, so we keep being adventurous, we keep moving, whatever that may be. But the happiness that I'm talking about, that everybody seems to be missing the boat a little bit on, is internal happiness. What does it mean to follow your bliss? What does Joseph Campbell mean by following your bliss? What does it really mean to be in joyful participation with the sorrows of the world? What is he saying there? Right? I have a friend that just gave me this card. He was going into combat. It was a really interesting card, and what was happening, he wanted to learn close-range knife fighting because of where he was going to go. Now, I don't teach that. You guys that have been with me for a while know that you have to be at a certain frame of mind before I teach that. But I didn't want to lose this guy. And he's around my age. And I asked him, first of all, I said, why are you going into combat? I mean, did your unit get called? He goes, no, I volunteered for it. And the process of him volunteering for it was this big, gigantic hassle. Like he just didn't volunteer and they took him. He had to submit a resume, right? He already has all this experience, submit a resume, go through all these politics, go through all of this stuff to get to that point. So we were talking, and I gave him a couple of lessons and for close range, and he gives me this card, which I really thought was cool. It's a man that's on a path. You could see the road. You could see the road a little bit, right? This is a guy who's on a path that is it's pretty empty, right? And then what it says here is, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's own courage. And I really like that. He picked that. He took the time to pick that out for me. So when you talk about happiness, I think it's cool. I think Iron Man is right. I think we should pursue different things in our aesthetic life that make us happy, whatever that may be. Jumping out of a plane, becoming successful, creating a new invention, shooting somebody in the head, in combat, not on the street robbing them. Don't get any ideas, right? Okay? in dealing with this, when the Buddha basically is saying in joyful participation in the sorrows of the world, these are internally, what we talk about internal, for whatever that may be, or spiritually, that's a whole different game. Everything else that's in your life, you're just doing. It could bring you happiness at that time, it could bring you sadness, it can bring you experiences, that's all of that. But in your life, there's different rooms that you have to enter. That's what the Buddha is talking about as joyful participation. Each room or chamber that you enter, sometimes you will enter into a room of consciousness in yourself that has no windows and no doors. And there you are. You're in a new chamber of thought. You're in a new experience. The internal inner self that we were talking about in the search of happiness is neither happy or sad. It just is. You will not be able to escape your orgasms or wanting to try and achieve what it is that you want to gain in your life. You know, I want to be a black belt in Kung Fu. I want to be the next millionaire. I want to have a computer. I want to have an iPhone. I want to have these things, these little things that come. I want to join the army so I can go and shoot people. Whatever it may be, these are all things that are aesthetic. We can't miss the point when you're talking about steadiness, streamline. It's about being able to enter into those rooms. And those rooms are usually always dark. They're always scary. Right? Until you start to understand what's in that room. And you start tripping over things and you stop bumping into things. And more light and less shadow begins. Happiness, right, internally, is willing to take on the challenges of when that door opens and walk through it.